There is one decision you avoid making, not because you don't know it matters, but because once you make it, there's no going back. This decision doesn't look dramatic. It won't impress anyone. It won't give you instant results. But it quietly splits lives into two paths. People who move forward and people who stay stuck explaining why they didn't. Here's the truth. Your life doesn't change from motivation. It doesn't change from luck. It doesn't change from information. It changes the moment you make one irreversible internal decision. You stop keeping your options open. That's it. That's the decision. Most people never make it. And because they never make it, nothing ever fully commits. They half try, half start, half believe, and half lives produce half results. Now let's talk about why keeping options open feels smart. Because it protects you. If one thing fails, you can say, I wasn't all in. If it doesn't work, it doesn't mean anything about you. You stayed safe, untested, untouched. That safety is exactly what ruins you. Because progress requires exposure, and exposure requires commitment. Now let's talk about how this shows up in real life. You say, I'll try this and see. I'm just experimenting. I'm keeping my options open. Those phrases sound harmless. They're not. They signal to your brain that this doesn't matter. And when something doesn't matter, effort drops, focus drops, persistence drops. Your behavior never aligns, so results never arrive. Now let's talk about the difference between trying and deciding. Trying leaves the door open. Deciding closes it. Trying says, I'll see how I feel. Deciding says, this happens regardless of how I feel. That difference is everything. Now let's talk about the fear behind indecision. You're not afraid of failure. You're afraid of meaningful failure. Failure that counts. Failure that proves something. So you keep exits available, so you can escape the verdict. But without verdicts, there is no growth. Only motion without direction. Now let's talk about why this one decision changes everything. Because the moment you decide, behavior changes automatically. You stop asking, should I keep going? Because you already answered. You stop negotiating. You stop drifting. You stop restarting. You stop searching for reassurance. Deciding removes debate. And debate is what drains you. Now let's talk about energy. Undecided people are tired, not because they work too hard, because they carry unresolved choices. Every open option drains energy. Decided people feel lighter, even when they work more, because there's no internal tug of war. Now let's talk about confidence. Confidence doesn't come from believing in yourself. It comes from alignment. When your actions match your decision. Indecision creates internal conflict. Conflict destroys confidence. Decisions resolve conflict. That resolution feels like confidence. Now let's talk about why most people never make this decision. Because it feels like loss. When you commit to one path, you lose others. And loss feels painful. But here's the truth. Nobody tells you. You're losing options anyway. Time closes doors. Inaction closes doors. Waiting closes doors. The only difference is whether you choose what you lose or let life choose for you. Now let's talk about the illusion of flexibility. You think flexibility keeps you free. It doesn't. It keeps you shallow. Depth requires commitment. You can't go deep while constantly preparing to exit. Depth is where leverage lives. Now let's talk about how this decision shows up in habits. Undecided people rely on motivation. Decided people rely on rules. Undecided people skip when it's inconvenient. Decided people adjust, but continue. Undecided people quit emotionally. Decided people persist mechanically. Now let's talk about why decision beats talent. Talented people who don't decide drift. Average people who decide compound. Time rewards commitment, not potential. Now let's talk about the cost of waiting to decide. You think waiting keeps things neutral. It doesn't. It trains you to hesitate. Hesitation becomes identity. Identity becomes destiny. Now let's talk about the moment you feel this tension. You're at it right now. There's something you know you should commit to. Not because it's guaranteed, but because not committing is draining you. You keep revisiting it, rethinking it, re-evaluating it. That loop is the signal. You don't need more thought. You need a decision. Now, let's talk about permanence. People fear commitment because they think it's permanent. It's not. Commitment is not forever. It's until reviewed. Decided people commit for a defined window. 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. They don't quit inside the window. They reassess after. Undecided people reassess every day. That's exhausting. Now let's talk about how the brain responds to decision. When you decide, your brain reallocates resources. Focus sharpens. Noise drops. Distractions lose pull. Because the brain knows what matters. Indecision keeps everything loud. Now let's talk about momentum. Momentum only starts after decision. Before that, everything is friction. After decision, resistance still exists, but it's quieter. Because there's no debate. Now let's talk about responsibility. Decision means ownership. Ownership means no excuses. That's heavy, but it's also empowering, because now results make sense. Now let's talk about the people you admire. Every one of them decided at some point. Not when it was easy, when it was unclear, when it felt risky. That decision didn't guarantee success. It guaranteed direction. Direction is more valuable than certainty. Now let's talk about the lie you keep telling yourself. I just need more time. No. You need to stop delaying the cost, because the cost will be paid either way. Upfront as discomfort or later as regret. Now let's talk about the final misunderstanding. This decision does not change your life overnight. It changes how you behave every day, and behavior compounds silently, relentlessly. Now let's strip this down. The one decision that changes your life is not what you choose. It's that you choose and stop keeping exits open. That decision removes the internal escape hatch. And without an escape hatch, effort deepens. Focus sharpens. Results follow. Because making the decision is one thing. Living it is another. You need to know how to commit without burning out, how to decide without panic, and how to lock this decision so you don't quietly undo it later. Making the decision is not the hard part. Protecting it is. Most people decide and then quietly undo the decision without noticing. They keep exits open emotionally. They say they're committed but behave like they're temporary. That's why nothing changes. So here's the rule you have to understand first. A decision only works if it removes an option. If nothing is removed, nothing changes. Now, let's talk about how people fake commitment. They say, I'll try for a bit. I'll see how it goes. I'll give it a chance. Those phrases sound mature. They're not. They are psychological exit doors. They tell your brain, this doesn't really matter. And when something doesn't matter, effort becomes optional. Optional effort never compounds. Now let's talk about how real commitment is made safely without burning out or panicking. First, you commit to time, not outcome. This is critical. Undecided people commit to outcomes. If this works, I'll continue. Decided people commit to duration. I will do this for 1 year, no matter what the results look like. Why? Because outcomes fluctuate. Time creates skill. Skill creates leverage. Committing to time removes emotional decision-making. You're not allowed to quit early. You're not allowed to evaluate daily. You just execute. That's how momentum finally forms. Second, you remove daily choice. If you wake up every day asking, do I still want this? You already lost. Decided people don't check desire. They check the calendar. This is what I do at this time. It is day. Rules replace mood. Structure replaces emotion. That's how commitment survives bad days. Third, you accept boredom as proof. This part separates adults from dabblers. When boredom shows up, most people think, this must not be right. No, boredom means novelty is gone, and novelty leaving is required for depth. Every meaningful path becomes boring before it becomes rewarding. Boredom is not a signal to quit. It's a signal you've stayed long enough for something real to begin. Fourth, you stop talking about it. Talking leaks commitment. When you announce plans early, Your brain gets the reward without the work, so effort drops. Decided people go quiet. They don't explain. They don't seek validation. They let results speak later. Silence protects commitment. Fifth, you eliminate escape behaviors. This is uncomfortable. Escape behaviors look like constantly researching alternatives, watching content about other paths, fantasizing about quitting, comparing with people who chose differently. Those behaviors keep exits alive. Decided people starve exits. They narrow inputs. They reduce comparison. They stay focused on execution, not because it's easy, because it's necessary. Now let's talk about the internal panic that shows up after commitment. This is important. After you decide, anxiety spikes. Your brain says, what if this is wrong? What if I waste time? What if I regret this? That panic is normal. It's not intuition. It's your old identity fighting for survival. Indecision was familiar. Commitment is threatening. You don't argue with the panic. You don't reassure it. You ignore it and follow the rule. Emotion calms after behavior, not before. Now let's talk about discipline again. Discipline is not force. It's follow through without negotiation. The moment you stop negotiating with yourself, energy returns. Most exhaustion is internal debate, not effort. Decision ends debate. That's why it changes everything. Now, let's talk about failure under commitment. Failure becomes information, not identity. You stop asking, am I good at this? And start asking, what needs adjustment? Commitment turns failure into feedback. Indecision turns failure into proof you should quit. Same event, different meaning, different outcome. Now, let's talk about confidence. Confidence doesn't come from believing the decision was right. It comes from knowing you won't abandon yourself. That self-trust is rare and powerful. Once you trust your follow-through, fear loses control. Now let's talk about time. This is where people get it wrong. They think commitment traps them. It doesn't. Commitment compresses time. Instead of wandering for years, you move deeply in one direction. Even if you pivot later, you carry skill. You carry discipline. You carry self-trust. Indecision gives you nothing transferable. Now let's talk about regret. People regret not choosing far more than choosing wrong. Because wrong choices end. Unchosen lives linger. Commitment closes doors, but it opens a life. Now, let's talk about the final lock. You don't say, I'm committed. You say, I don't quit inside the window. That's the contract. 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. You decide the window in advance, and inside it, no evaluation, no rethinking, no emotional audits, just execution. After the window ends, you review calmly, not emotionally, not impulsively. That's how adults decide. Now, the final challenge. This is not symbolic. It's decisive. Identify one thing you keep circling, not because it's perfect, but because avoiding it is draining you. Now do this. Choose a time window. Minimum 6 months. Commit fully for that window. Remove all exit behaviors. Follow rules, not feelings. No motivation required. No certainty needed. Just decision. If this hit, leave a comment with one word, committed. And subscribe if you want more of this. Not inspiration, not advice, but the mental decisions that permanently change how your life moves. Because lives don't change when circumstances change. They change when indecision ends. And once you decide without keeping exits open, everything else finally has a chance to work.